Hello dear students, I am Dr. Shikha Pandey, Associate Professor from Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So today I will discuss about the vermicomposting. As in the previous lectures with this solid waste management subject, I have discussed you about the incinerator and the haul container system, how this hauling should be done. So in case of vermicomposting has been used for the composting to make compost from the solid waste, those which is organic in nature. So those which is non-organic in nature, which cannot be used for the making the compost, can be used either go for the incinerator, either go to the landfills or some other location site, some material recovery facility site. But this those waste which is organic in nature will go for the vermicomposting. So now we'll talk about this vermicomposting. So now we'll talk about this vermicomposting. Let's start with the introduction of this vermicomposting. Vermicomposting is like what happened. Vermicompost is the product of the decomposition process using various species of earthworms. So what happened in the composting site, solid waste will be there. So in that organic, those who are organic in nature, so with that solid waste, we'll add some of the earthworms, some of the worms. That earthworm will feed and degrade the organic composition, organic waste. So basically this vermicomposting will involve with the composting by using some of the earthworms. So using earthworm to degrade the solid waste and the organic waste nature is called as vermicomposting. And the worms that are using for this vermicomposting process is like red wiggler. Red wiggler is there, that is called as Icina foetida. And some white worm is there, white worms are there, and some other earthworm are there. So these earthworm will helps to create a mixture of decomposing vegetable or food waste, some bedding material and vermicast. So by using earthworm, some of the types of earthworm is there, that is red wriggler is there, white worms are there, and some other earthworms are there. That will helps in creating a mixture of decomposing vegetables or food waste bedding material. So this so this in the vermicomposting process, what this earthworm is doing, this earthworm will added into the composting bin or composting site, and that will degrade and the mixed with the organic compostable vegetables and food waste and some bedding materials and vermicast. So this vermicomposting is making some vermicast. Okay, so this vermicast can be made by using some of the earthworms, and the types of earthworm that will be used in this vermicomposting process is red wriggler is there, white worms are there, and some other earthworm are there, and that will helps to create a mixture of decomposing vegetables and food waste, bedding materials and vermicast. So what is this vermicast? Vermicast can also known as worm casting, worm humus, worm manure or worm feces. We have also seen that this vermicast in outside of the field. The earthworm will degrade this solid waste and forms a worm cast. This is just a feces of this worm, and this is called as worm manure. We can say it as a human, because this is very much fertile. And this vermicast, we can use it into the agriculture field. And this is organic in nature completely. So no chemicals are there, no chemical fertilizers are there. So it can be a very best substitute for the chemical fertilizers. So what happened? This earthworm will degrade the solid waste, and with the degradation, vermicast will formed. And this vermicast is called as worm casting, sometimes worm humus, sometimes worm manures and worm feces. So with this is the this worm cast and worm humus is the end product of this vermicomposting process, and it is like a breakdown of organic matter by the earthworm. So the all organic matter that is present in the solid waste will be break down by using some earthworms. So this earthworm will break down the vermicomposting, and this vermicast can also be it will be worked with some earthworms. That earthworm category is called as red wriggler, white worms and some other worms. So, what is the nature? What is the composition of this vermicomposting? Why it is much useful? So, this vermicompost contains some water-soluble nutrients. This vermicompost will contain some water-soluble nutrients and is an excellent nutrient-rich organic fertilizer. It is an nutrient-rich fertilizer and a soil conditioner. It can act as a best soil conditioner also. So, this vermicompost is water soluble nutrients. First thing is that it will contain some water soluble nutrients, and it is an excellent nutrient rich organic fertilizer and soil conditioner. So it is a very much good, it is an excellent nutrient rich organic fertilizer as well as soil conditioner. So this vermicomposting is a very good method to utilize all the organic waste into a vermicompost. So all organic waste can be converted into a vermicompost, and this vermicompost is nothing but the feces of the earthworm. And for this, some high quality earthworms can be used. That earthworm is called as either the category of earthworm is red regular, white worms, and some other worms. And it is going to create a mixture of decomposing vegetables and food waste, wedding material, and vermicast. And this vermicompost is very much nutrient rich because it will contain some water soluble nutrients, and it is an excellent nutrient rich organic fertilizer and soil conditioner. Okay. So see, this is a picture of the some of the earthworm. Picture of the earthworm like a step. First is the Increchus bolocuzia and Isina foetida. Isina foetida is basically, this is the called as a red regular. This earthworms can be used. You can buy the earthworm from the market and you can put this earthworm inside your vermicompost bins, vermicompost chamber. So while putting these earthworms into the vermicompost chamber, this will be like acting as a means it will be degrade the solid waste, and by degradation of solid waste, vermicast will be come out from the earthworm, and that vermicast can be called as compost also. Vermicast is there, that is called as compost also. And this vermicast can be a very excellent soil conditioner that can be used as a humus or manure into the agriculture field. Now we'll see the mechanism of vermicomposting, how this vermicomposting can work and what to do. So first is the biodegradable material should be collected. Biodegradable material means those material which is organic in nature, means organic waste. Organic waste, biodegradable materials will be collected at a point, and then what to do? It will be like the homogeneous mixture of all waste, means homogeneous mixture of all waste that is present will be make homogeneous mixture will be make to maintain the actual condition for this earthworm survival and to work out this earthworm in a good condition. So we'll talk later what type of condition is required for this earthworm so that this earthworm can work too much better. So first, after this homogeneous mixture, vermicomposting process will be start. So in the vermicomposting process, first thing is the worm of the biomass. Worms will be added. So by the adding the worms into this vermicast process, this oxygen and water is required. With the worms, will add oxygen and will give water also, so that this earthworm can perform well and they can survive in this particular condition. So the most important thing with this vermicomposting is that the maintenance of actual requirement of this vermicomposting site is also very much required. Because what happen, if we will provide a better condition for the earthworm survival and growth, then only they can work better and they can degrade better. This compost will be coming out. So with some warm biomass will be there, some water will be added, then and it will going to release ammonia and carbon dioxide. Ammonia and carbon dioxide starts releasing when the degradation process will starts. This ammonia and carbon dioxide starts releasing. After that, earthworm and cocoon harvesting is there. when we will add earthworm with the worms biomass will be there, then harvesting of earthworm will starts. And with this harvesting, the vermicomposting with living cultured soil microbes means uh, is obtained. It will be a final product of this vermicompost process. So final product of this vermicompost process is like that, the vermicompost with living cultured soil microbes, with because that has been already degraded with the by using some of the earthworm cocoons, and harvesting will be there, and this worm biomass will work. So vermicompost with living cultured soil microbes are there, and the compost will obtain at the end of the process will have many microbes also. So all these are very much beneficial for the plant growth, and this can be utilized in the agriculture field and the crops also. That's why this vermicomposting is much important, and this vermicomposting mechanism is also very good. So vermicompost with some living cultured biomass soil microbes will be there. Vermicompost is like that, that has been solid waste is there, and that into that solid waste we are adding some worm biomass. This worm, what they are doing, they are degrading the solid waste, and by the degradation process of the solid waste, this worm will make the vermicompost or the vermicast, and this vermicast will be like, it will be a living cultured soil microbes. Some soil microbe culture will be there into the vermicompost. So this is the whole process is there that will be related with the vermicomposting. Now we'll discuss about the types of earthworm. We'll discuss about the variety of earthworm that will be using in this vermicomposting site. So in this vermicomposting, first is the Anacia. Anacia is again a type of earthworm. Earthworms types. Which type of earthworm is using in this vermicomposting site? So first is the Anacia, that is Lumbricus terrestris. So it will build the permanent burrow in the deep soil. This earthworm will build a permanent burrow in the deep soil and drag down their food from soil surface to their burrow. So they will drag down the food from the soil surface to the burrower. So after dragging the food from the soil surface to burrower, it can work very efficiently, and it will be using as a bait for fishing purpose. And next up is the endogenic, that is Eugenia type of earthworm. So what these earthworms are doing, it is again building a burrow, upper layer of the soil. So it will be added on the upper layer of the soil, and that layer it will be burrows and it will be built. It will feeds on organic matter. Basically, it will feed on the organic matter, and costly. It will be mostly visible in the rainy season. So this can work under the rainy season more. So this Eugenia type of earthworm will work in the rainy season, and it will be mostly it feeds on the organic matter and build a burrow on the upper layer of the soil. So Anacia and these Eugenia type of earthworms are the mostly used in today's world, today's vermicomposting site, because these are the very good earthworms, because they will permanently build a hollow on into a deep soil, and with the burrows of the deep soil and upper layer of the soil, it will build a burrow and drag down their food from soil surface to the burrow. So it will drag down the foods from the surface of the soils to their burrow, and it will be feed on the organic matter, and this Eugenia will be mostly work under the good condition of the rainy season. Next is the Eisenia foetida. So it will be basically, its characteristic is like it will feed on the organic matter. So decaying organic matter, it will be work on best on the decaying organic matter, means those organic matter which are already decayed, which are already not used, and which are already rotten, and it do not forms burrower, means basically it will not form a hollow, it will not form a burrow, it will feed, it will degrade the organic waste, the decaying organic matter. This will be very much useful for the vermicomposting process, and it can work in all the season, and it will be like a feed on the decaying organic matters, and it do not forms any burrows, and useful for the vermicomposting process. Then we'll discuss about the requirement for the process of vermicomposting. Means we'll talk about the what is the condition, good condition is required, which type of condition, which type of maintenance will be required for this vermicomposting process. So first is the suitable bedding should be there. Good food source will be provided for this earthworm so that the earthworm can work better. Adequate moisture should be given. Adequate aeration, moisture, aeration, suitable temperature and suitable pH. So these six are the condition that is much required for the vermicomposting process. First of all is like suitable bedding should be provided, good food source should be provided, adequate moisture, adequate aeration, suitable temperature and good condition, pH condition should be there for the process of vermicomposting. So first is the bedding. Why this bedding is much required? So bedding is any material that provide a relatively stable habitat to the worms. Bedding is like a material will be added. So this is mostly the soil will be there. So we'll discuss in the next class about the process of this vermicomposting. So first of all, the bedding will be there. So bedding is like any material that is provide a relatively stable habitat to the worms. So material will be there, and with that material some soil will be added. By adding the soil, some layers will be there, and that will be like stable habitat for the worms. So what is the characteristics of this bedding? First thing is it should be high absorbance should be there. So in high absorbance, as worms breathe through the skin, the bedding must be able to absorb and retain adequate water. So high absorbency should be there. So these worms will breathe through the skin, and it will be like the bedding should be like that. So it will be provide adequate water for their aeration purpose, because aeration and proper oxygen should be required for these earthworms, and they will be mostly live in the moist condition because they will aerate, they will breathe through their skin. So the high absorbency should be there with the retain of the adequate water should be maintained. So this is the important condition that should be maintained to achieve a good vermicompost, to achieve a good vermicast. So in bedding will be there, and bedding is like any material that provide a relatively stable habitat to the earthworms. And for this bedding, high absorbency should be there. Means high absorbency will be there like earthworm breathe through the skin, and for that proper amount of moisture or adequate amount of water should be there. Next is a good bulking potential. So the bulking potential of any material should be such that worm get oxygen properly. Good bulking potential will be there. The bulking potential of the material should be such like that they should be give oxygen properly. Low CN ratio, low carbon nitrogen ratio should be maintained, because this carbon nitrogen ratio will provide the level of food, and that will helps to for the rapid degradation and associated heating may be fatal to worms. So for the rapid degradation process, CN ratio should be maintained. This CN ratio should be maintained like the high protein and nitrogen ratio, and high carbon ratio will be there, like high protein will be there, and low nitrogen ratio will be there. So it will result in the rapid degradation and associated heating, and sometimes may be fatal to the earthworms. So this bedding is an important parameter for this earthworm to grow in a good condition. So this is like, these are main characteristics is like high absorbency will be there, good bulking potential will be there, and low carbon nitrogen content will be there. And next is the food source. Food source of these earthworms. So the food source will involve like regular input of feed materials for the earthworm is most essential steps in the vermicomposting process. So regular input of the feed materials, regular input should be given to the earthworm, so that the food source should be provided to the earthworms, so that it can be work better in the vermicomposting. Earthworm can use a wide variety of organic material as food, but do exhibit food preference. Earthworm will provide a variety of organic materials, so under ideal condition, worms can consume amounts of food higher than their body weights, and generally rule of thumb is like consumption of food weighing half of their body weight per day. So amount of food will be provided to the earthworm is like, that should be half of their body weight of the per day. per day you should provide a food to the earthworm, so that the earthworm will be half of its body weight. And next is the in adverse condition, this earthworm can extract sufficient moisture from soil to survive. So in an adverse condition, so what the earthworm can do, they can extract sufficient nourishment from the soil to survive. So when we will not provide, when they don't have sufficient amount of food source, this earthworm can extract sufficient amount of nourishment from the soil to its survival, for their survival. So these are the ideal condition for the food source. Like first point is like that regular input of food material will be there. Earthworm can use a wide variety of organic material as food, but do exhibit the food preference. So they have a wide variety of food preference, but you should provide them a better quality of food, so that they can work better, because our main aim is to make this solid waste into the vermicast. So to obtain a good vermicast, all conditions should be optimum, and all conditions should be clearly monitored, so that the earthworm can do very better. And under the ideal condition, worms can consume amount of food higher than their body weights. Some condition, this what happen, they can consume food higher than their body weight. And sometimes what they will do, it is like consumption is like they half of their body weight. So this is the trend that should be followed by the earthworm for their maintenance and for their better work. So this earthworm can extract in a adverse condition if some nourishment is not there, if proper moisture will not there. So in that condition, in the adverse condition, the earthworm can extract sufficient nourishment from the soil to survive into that place. So next is the moisture content. Moisture content is like that, it is a very important requirement of earthworm. Is adequate moisture is a very much important requirement, because the required moisture should be in the range of 60 to 70%. It should be in the range of 60 to 70%. So what happened, the feed stock should not be too wet, and otherwise it may create anaerobic condition. Means what happened, which may fatal to earthworm. When feed should be not too wet, means if it will be too wet, then it will may create anaerobic condition. Anaerobic condition means like oxygen, absence of oxygen, scarcity of oxygen will be there. So oxygen scarcity will be there. So because of that condition, that will be dangerous for the earthworm survival. So the feed stock should not be too much wet. The stock should be not be too wet. It should be dry. And because if it will be too wet, then mostly anaerobic condition will be created. That will be dangerous for the earthworm. And next point is the aeration. Proper aeration should be there. So factors such as high level of fatty acid, oily substance into the vermicompost sites, are excessive moisture combined with a poor aeration, and that may render anaerobic condition in the vermicomposting system. So anaerobic condition, moisture and aeration should be proper, so that it will prevent the anaerobic condition into the tanker, into the chamber of this vermicompost, because anaerobic condition is dangerous for the earthworm. Earthworm cannot be survive into the anaerobic condition. So the level of fatty acid and oily substance are there into the feed stock, and some excessive moisture are there. So this moisture will combined with poor aeration method, and they may render anaerobic condition in the vermicomposting system. So worm suffers severe mortality, partially because they are deprived oxygen, and partially because of some toxic substances. So it will be going to produce under such condition. So what happened, these worms may suffer sometimes with mortality with because of the less amount of oxygen, because of this anaerobic condition. Anaerobic condition will be created inside the chamber. So because of that, these worms may suffer mortality, may die, and some with the degradation process, the ammonia, some amount of ammonia is also producing. So this will be causing a adverse condition for these earthworms. Next point is the temperature and pH condition. So temperature maintenance into the earth vermicomposting chamber is like that. The activity, metabolism, growth, respiration and reproduction of earthworm are greatly influenced by the temperature. The activity, metabolism, growth, respiration and reproduction of earthworms are mainly influenced by the temperature. Worms have an optimal temperature range of 16 to 25 degree. These earthworms will have some optimal temperature range of 16 to 25 degrees Celsius. Temperature above 40 degrees Celsius can kill the earthworm. So, temperature maintenance is again an important factor. Moisture condition, aeration condition, temperature maintenance and pH. All four are the very important factor. So, this temperature maintenance should be 16 to 25 degrees Celsius only. If the temperature will be more than 40 degrees Celsius, it can kill the earthworms. So the activity, metabolism, growth, respiration and reproduction of earthworm are basically influenced by the temperature only. And worms have an optimal temperature range of 16 to 25 degrees Celsius. pH is like that. We should maintain the pH within the range of 5 to 9, and but a range of pH 7.5 to 8 is considered to be optimal. So the pH range is 5 to 9 only, but good condition for the earthworm survival is 7.5 to 8 only. And in general, the pH of worm beds tends to drop over time due to the fragmentation of organic matter under series of chemical reactions. So when the earthworm is working, so lots of chemical reaction will be there inside the chamber. So with that chemical reaction, with the reduction, with the release of many chemicals, the condition inside the worm beds will be sometimes more acid will be more, or sometimes it will be basic condition will be created. So the optimum condition for this temperature, for the pH in this earthworm bin should be like 5 to 9, or it should be in the range of 7.5 to 8, and it is considered as the optimum. Next condition is like, what is the important condition that will be also associated with this vermicompost. So first is like pre-composting of organic waste. Pre-composting of organic waste means like it is established, and pre-composting of organic waste is very essential to avoid mortality of worms. Means worms should not die. To make these worms survival, their survival and their working condition should be good. So in this way only we can achieve a good amount of vermicast. And next is the salt contents. Worms are very sensitive to salts, so the preferring salt content less than 0.5% in a feed. In a single feed, less soil content should be like 0.5%. Next is the urine content. Excessive urine will build up toxic gases like ammonia in the bedding condition. Other toxic components are there. Some different feeds can contain a wide variety of potentially toxic components. So different feeds are there, and that is going to release wide variety of potentially toxic components. So these are the some of the more condition that will be very much required to get a perfect vermicompost and vermicast. So first point is the pre-composting of organic waste. It should be established before the waste, and it should be to avoid the death of these earthworms. Salt content should be given, excessive urine content should be taken care, and other toxic components. So these all are adverse condition, so that basically when the earthworm start degrading the solid waste, ammonia will be releasing, and this ammonia is acidic in nature. So with the release of ammonia, the condition will be bad. So like that, this the condition will be created adverse for the survival of this earthworm. And survival also important, and you should provide good condition for this earthworm. Then only we can achieve a good amount of vermicast. Otherwise, the vermicompost will achieve is not purely degraded, and obviously some worms will be there, and that will be not much effective. So for this lecture, you can use this textbook names that will be as a reference. And thank you for today's lecture. And I will give you, if you have any query, if you have any question, you can write onto my given mail ID, shikha.pandy@gmail.com. Okay, you will write mail ID, and in this, so at this note, I'm going to conclude my lecture. Like Today we have discussed about the vermicompost. Vermicompost is a process where the organic waste can be utilized for its transformation, and the final product we'll obtain from the vermicompost is vermicast. And this vermicast is very useful, nutritious and manure that can be used into the agriculture field and as a soil conditioner. And this vermicompost will involve by the use of earthworms. Will put the earthworm inside the vermicompost chamber so that the vermicompost solid waste can be degraded properly, and conditions should be provided, should be monitored daily, and that will be then only these earthworm can grow better and they can work functionally very good. So thank you for today's lecture.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.